The Los Angeles County Office of Education and the LCAP State and Federal Programs Unit is proud to present School Site Council training on the Single Plan for Student Achievement. The outcomes for today are understanding the role of the School Site Council in relation to the development of the Single Plan for Student Achievement, or SPSA, and reviewing the steps to develop an effective plan. The California Department of Education, or CDE, created a guide to assist school site councils in the development of the SPSA. The guide can be downloaded from the CDE website. Throughout the presentation, you will see page numbers from the guide referenced in the lower right-hand corner of the slide. The Single Plan for Student Achievement, or SPSA, was created back in 2001 as part of the Consolidated application when the California legislature amended the requirements for school plans for schools participating in state and federal categorical programs funded through the Consolidated application. The intention is to focus schools on a coordinated planning process and have all programs operated at the site under one umbrella plan. The Consolidated application, also known as a CONAP, is a district-level document that is completed electronically and submitted to the California Department of Education to document distribution of federal formula grant funds. It is submitted in two parts. The spring submission in June shows how funds will be allocated to schools and also includes year-end data reporting on federal programs. The winter submission in February provides actual funding amounts and includes actual school-level allocations, district-level reservations, and additional reporting, including cash management reports. The school site allocations in the CONAP must match the budget pages in the SPSA. These are the federal programs included in the CONAP. Titles 4 and 5 are no longer funded. There are currently no state programs included in the CONAP except for the 2012-13 EIA carryover. LCFF funding may be included in the strategies identified in the SPSA. However, it is not part of the funding that comes through the CONAP. What is the SPSA? Education Code 64001 specifies that schools and districts that receive state and federal or other applicable funding through the district's CONAP process prepare an SPSA. The SPSA is a blueprint to improve the academic performance of all students, particularly those most at risk of not meeting state standards. The Single Plan for Student Achievement is required for all schools receiving Title I funds. The School Site Council has a critical role in this process. This is written in Education Code 64001. The body is responsible for developing, monitoring, and evaluating the SPSA, along with receiving input from school-level advisory committees. While the SPSA is a state requirement, it fulfills many federal Title I planning requirements. Many programs and funding sources have planning requirements or other criteria that may be addressed through the SPSA. The School Site Council, or SSC, is a group of people who are elected by their peers to represent parents, teachers, administration, and other staff. The representatives' terms of office are defined in the bylaws established by the School Site Council. School Site Councils are required under Education Code 52852 for schools receiving certain state and/or federal funds. The goal of the SPSA is to ensure that schools have one comprehensive plan to meet all categorical program needs. It not only serves as the organizer for the school's improvement process, but it helps to coordinate all the educational school services. It also addresses how funds will be used to improve students' academic performance while integrating all of the purposes and requirements of all categorical programs in which the school participates. Education Code 64001 established 9 legal requirements for the SPSA. We will review each one separately in the following slides. The first requirement is that districts must assure that the School Site Council has developed and approved an SPSA. SPSA Requirement Number 2. Any plans required by programs funded through the CONAP and subject to Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESEA, Program Improvement, PI, requirements must be consolidated into a single plan. Schools may choose to add additional funding sources. SPSA Requirement Number 3. The single plan must be reviewed by the School Site Council annually and updated, including proposed expenditures of funds allocated to the school through the CONAP. SPSA Requirement Number 4. School goals in the SPSA must be based on an analysis of verifiable student data, including the Academic Performance Index, or API, which is currently suspended, and the California English Language Development Test, or CELT, which measures the progress of English learners. The SPSA may include any data voluntarily developed by the district to measure student achievement. School goals in the SPSA should also include an analysis of school progress on AYP, or Adequate Yearly Progress. This analysis of data becomes part of the needs assessment to determine the focus for the use of resources. SPSA Requirement Number 5 states that the content of the SPSA must be aligned with the school's goals for improving student achievement. SPSA Requirement Number 6. The SPSA must be developed with the review, certification, and advice of any applicable school advisory committees. Examples of advisory committees may include the English Learner Advisory Committee, School Advisory Committees, Gifted and Talented Education Advisory Committee, Special Education Advisory Committee, or any other advisory committees found at the site. SPSA Requirement Number 7 is that the SPSA must address how the CONAP funds will be used to improve the academic performance of all students, as established by the API, Academic Performance Index, which is currently suspended. There is an emphasis on all students meeting proficiency, especially those most at risk of not meeting state standards. SPSA Requirement Number 8. The SPSA must be aligned and be consistent with the District's Improvement Plan, the LEA plan. There is also a requirement for school districts to review SPSAs to ensure alignment with the LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plans. It is important to understand that the LCAP is a district plan, and all actions and services that take place at school sites must be described in the LCAP and may not be determined by school or by the School Site Council. SPSAs should be reviewed prior to approval of the LCAP so that school-level actions can be captured in the district plan. SPSA Requirement Number 9. The SPSA must be reviewed and approved by the local governing board, including whenever there are material changes that may affect the academic programs for students. The SPSA and the LCAP. The School Site Council has decision-making authority over the use of funding through the CONAP process and the development of the SPSA. For most schools, this funding is Title I. School Site Councils may have advisory input into the development of the LCAP and the use of LCFF funding, but they do not have decision-making authority over the LCAP. As part of the SSC, you need to ensure that the specific plan element requirements are included in your SPSA. A good way to make sure you have all the required components of the plan is to use the CDE resources. The CDE Resource Index provides a specific listing of the requirements for program improvement schools and school-wide Title I schools. We recommend you use the cover sheets and indicate the page numbers for required items in your plan. This helps the SSC to organize and include required components and makes it clear to reviewers when looking for specific plan components. Federal and state laws require that the California Department of Ed, CDE, to monitor implementation of categorical programs operated by local education agencies. This process is called Federal Program Monitoring, or FPM. Compliance with requirements for SSCs are monitored during FPM visits or online reviews. Compliance documents can be found on the CDE website. During FPM, the SPSA will be reviewed to ensure that it meets compliance requirements. The SPSA must consolidate all required plans and contain an analysis of data to determine student needs, school goals to meet academic needs of all students, activities that improve the academic performance of all students, as well as expenditures of funds, and annual evaluation of the progress of programs towards accomplishing the goals, including determining whether the needs of all children have been met by the strategies used, particularly the needs of low-achieving students and those at risk of not meeting state academic content standards. There are items pertaining to the SPSA that are often found non-compliant. The first is SSE annually develops, reviews, updates, and approves the SPSA, including proposed expenditures. The second is the SSE and the LEA annually evaluate and determine the needs of all children. SSEs will want to be sure to document all efforts in these two areas to ensure they meet compliance requirements. As part of the FPM process, reviewers from the California Department of Ed will review documents including the SPSA, evaluation results, and SSE minutes and agendas. This will also include interviews with different members of the school community. They may decide to speak with teachers, students, parents, and school site council members. On pages 5 through 12 of the guide, the CDE outlines 7 steps for developing the single plan for student achievement. The development, implementation, and evaluation of the single plan for student achievement is a continuous cycle of improvement. Advisory groups play an important role in providing input to the school site council. Their input can inform the needs of pupils in the school community, as well as inform the level of implementation and the impact of specific strategies identified in the SPSA. The school site council plays an essential role in developing and monitoring the plan. They are responsible for the development and monitoring and evaluation of the SPSA. The governing board also has a critical role during the approval process. The district and school administration are primarily responsible for ensuring the plan is implemented. The district provides the leadership and support throughout the entire cycle. And then the cycle continues. The SPSA must be based on the analysis of verifiable data and local student achievement data, which could include state-level data and local assessments. API is currently suspended. The new state accountability system is being developed. The required metrics in the LCAP will form the basis for the new state accountability system. CELT is the test that measures the progress of English learners in acquiring English. AYP results can be found on the CDE website. School and student level data may include local benchmark assessment scores, curriculum embedded assessments, and reading and math diagnostics. Using these measures of student academic performance, the school site council can identify significant patterns of low performance in particular content areas, student groups, and individual students. These data conversations will deepen understanding of students' needs and should drive the instructional goals. The SSE then decides which data summaries to include in the plan as most informative and relevant to the plan. An accurate assessment and thorough analysis of the current instructional program is essential to raising academic performance. The SPSA must be developed with the review, advice, and certification of applicable school advisory committees. Advisory committees may wish to present their recommendations to the school site council in writing to facilitate communication. Advisory committees' recommendations should be reflected in the school site council meeting agendas and minutes. The LEA plan goals articulate the district priority and expectations. School-level goals should be aligned with the LEA plan. Once goals are established, all activities and related expenditures should be based on these goals. It's important to ensure improvement strategies are designed to address the areas of need identified, that they are prioritized by student need, that they are realistic and attainable, as well as measurable by frequent formative assessments. Step 4 involves defining timelines, funding expenditures and sources, and appropriate personnel. It is important to remember that expenditures of state and federal categorical funds cannot pay for what, in the absence of categorical funds, would be provided by the general fund. Essentially, expenditures are allowable if they are an effective means of accomplishing the purposes of the programs being funded. They are reasonable and necessary. They supplement, not supplant, the general program. This means they cannot be used to pay for services required by state law, services that were previously funded by non-supplemental funds, and services for students who are not eligible. Step 5 is recommending the SPSA to the local governing board. The school site council chairperson, principal, and advisory committees are asked to sign the SPSA to attest to the applicable assurances. By signing the SPSA, they are assuring that the SSC is properly constituted, has reviewed its legal responsibilities and sought input from advisory committees, has reviewed content requirements for all programs included, and is based on an analysis of current practices and student academic performance. And it was formally approved by the SSC. If the local governing board does not approve the SPSA, they must communicate the specific reasons, and then the SSC must revise and resubmit the SPSA for approval. Until the SPSA is revised and approved, the activities and expenditures are not authorized for implementation. The role of the district governing board is to adopt policies as they relate to the SPSA, review, approve, or disapprove the plan, ensure that the SPSAs are aligned to the LEA plan, and meet federal funding requirements. The district and school administration are primarily responsible for proper implementation of the SPSA. This includes assigning, directing, and supervising staff, purchasing materials and supplies, and accurate accounting of funds. Once the plan is approved and implemented, the SSC is responsible for monitoring the effectiveness. Monitoring will be made easier if the plan specifies actions, dates, estimated costs, and measurable anticipated student academic outcomes, as well as persons involved and their responsibilities. There are times when mid-year changes to the SPSA are necessary. A school may decide to amend their SPSA if, for example, a major service or activity is ineffective, material changes occur that will impact the academic programs, they are unable to secure staff, equipment, or materials, or school boundaries have changed and/or an activity is not compliant or supported by the school community. Some of the reasons that school plans are not effective is that they are not based on a thorough analysis of student needs, or they are not an honest assessment of the current instructional program. The SPSA is only seen as a way to justify spending money rather than as a plan for improving student achievement. Sometimes it's because the plans do not include specific actions that are measurable, and they are not based on meaningful input from all stakeholders. With that in mind, will your SPSA hit the target? Remember, the goal of the SPSA is to improve learning for all students. Does the SPSA outline a coordinated and coherent program? Are the services effective and appropriate? Does it address the Common Core standards? These are the factors you want to consider as you evaluate the effectiveness of the SPSA. 3 questions to consider if the SPSA fails to achieve expected results. Are school goals based on valid student assessment data and factual assessment of current educational practice? Is the plan an educationally sound means of reaching goals? Was the plan implemented in a timely and effective manner? More helpful resources are available at the CDE website. The SPSA Guide, Part 1, was shared at the beginning of the presentation. Part 2 provides a sample SPSA template as well as ideas for guidelines for completing the SPSA annual evaluation. Part 3 is the resource index, which has legal specifics for the SPSA, sample data collection forms, SSC composition requirements, sample bylaws, along with other useful resources. The LACOE LCAP State and Federal Programs Unit is available to assist should you have any questions about the role of the School Site Council in the development of the single plan for student achievement.